The megastructure, a building so infinite in its scope, it takes hundreds of years of travel just to see a slight change in architecture. Nobody understands its purpose, who is building it. Nobody can recall the history of how they came to reside in it. On the megastructure, there is a perch outside of it, afforded the luxury of trees, grass, sunlight. A colony of androids simply exists. Needing for nothing but still left wanting, a member of this colony searches for a way to escape paradise. While camping on the outskirts of their home colony, an answer to their problem reveals itself. An entity, an owl, a glitch, a memory, ever-shifting beckons them in, and they follow, deep into the concrete. This is Lorn's Lure. As usual, I didn't have time to play it on release, even though I was really looking forward to it. The simple concept of exploring a mysteriously giant and weathered complex was enough to reel me in. I was expecting intrigue and ambiance, but what I didn't expect was to be this engaged with the gameplay. I played the demo a while back, and the game is totally different, for the better in my opinion. The very first seconds of the games, you have the most basic tools, running and jumping, and eventually in that first level, you find climbing hooks. Your HUD indicates whether or not you can actually pierce a surface with these hooks. Things like concrete is fine, but hard metals like iron is a no-go. Throughout the game, you get drip-fed a surprising amount of complexity, a sliding mechanic that requires you to get a feel for seemingly arbitrary things like the angle of slopes. You start to learn what surfaces have just enough leverage for you to jump off of. There's a boost that you could use that has a particular double jump, a light source, a grappling hook, and more. Each ability is tailor-made to be showcased in the level that you found it and to be used regularly throughout the rest of the game. It's just incredibly well designed and had me way more interested than I thought I'd be in exploring. The movement options given to the player along with the detailed shape of the terrain feels confusing at first, but very satisfying once you understand what the game is asking of you. It sort of feels like that game Getting Over It in a way, except less about making you experience rage and achieving zen. There's an interesting aspect of design around this game that got me thinking about that whole yellow paint ordeal that was going on like last year. If you don't know, people were complaining about the prevalence of straight up yellow paint in video games. The complaint is that it takes the player out of the setting. It's like seeing guardrails that the developer had created for you. Some players even feel disrespected by its inclusion, pining for a more believable level design that doesn't hold your hand. I read a review a while back that described Lorn's Lure as the anti-yellow paint game. It's true that a large portion of the gameplay is figuring out where to go and how to get somewhere. Weirdly though, this game has a paradox in design regarding that point. If you survey almost any area in this game you might be stuck on, you're most likely going to find the area with the most complex design is the way to go. I just find it interesting because if you were to go a step further, obscure the path down more and more with dead ends and soft locking, then the game would be a lot more annoying. Maybe not for everyone, but definitely for me. I really wouldn't like this game if it was just a maze. Well, maybe there's a way. Game design's fun, ain't it? It doesn't feel like there's a definite answer as to how to design this game. I got a lot of respect for how Rubeki Games made this game. It's not something I would have ever thought of, and looking at Rubeki's history, they didn't at first either. Hollowhead was their first attempt at publicly releasing a game, and it's basic as hell. A very short experience where a monster chases you down a hallway with an open-ended conclusion. Not much of note, but it did establish an interest in horror. From that to the game Hatch is a huge change and leap forward in design. Transient music, a dreamlike environment, and a weird giant structure to climb. One-sentence side stories here or there, and climbing that gets increasingly demanding of the player as you progress. Sounds familiar, don't it? In the description for Hatch, it stated that the game was simply meant to mimic the feeling of rock climbing. And I can see it. You're constantly adjusting your position to keep moving forward, but I think it accomplished something beyond that. The games Do and Kill the Koth, both very free and short games by the way, both feel like new iterations of Hatch and predecessors of Lorn's Lure, most obviously in the inclusion of hooks, but they weren't massive changes or even improvements. In the context of what was released before, it just feels like exploring ideas for things like story and setting and ambiance and all that jazz. To me, Lorn's Lure is when the vision for what those games could be actually came to life. The graphics? Low poly. Most likely for the utility of creating a game without too heavy of a workload required for the style. Why did I say it like that? Style. I always thought that style lended itself greatly to horror because of the interpretation needed from the player inherently. About the story. There's not much I can say without spoiling a whole lot. This video isn't gonna cover that. A huge appeal of the game is actually figuring things out on your own, piecing it together. It feels like you're physically traveling through history of the megastructure as you descend. Different eras of androids, of people, prosperous, lost, warring ages. Some people from those ages are still alive and dying. Coming up with my own interpretations as I played the game is wildly fun and coincides with the main character's goal of finding the truth, finding meaning. There is a theme of finding truth or purpose in a world that just exists. It's what kept me interested in the game. I didn't only want to find out about this world, but also the characters that choose to forsake safety and paradise for the sake of knowledge. When laying it out, it's very similar to the stories of Adam and Eve, who both ate the forbidden fruit of knowledge of good and evil, tempted by the snake. They were then cast out from paradise, the Garden of Eden, for their disobedience. Our main characters are also tempted by knowledge, tempted by an animal, in a way. Also, if you read manga, there is an obvious parallel to the masterwork of a manga called Blam, in more ways than just a setting. If you don't know, it's a sci-fi story taking place in an infinitely expanding building with all links to the past severed from the danger lurking in that space. The main character has a lot more agency than in Lorn's Lore, but the reader serves a similar role as in the game. Interpret and uncover. It's a great manga, maybe I'll talk about it sometime. And I'll talk about that connection to Blam in the spoiler talk too. The music is very, very sparse, only afforded during big moments. Most of the sound you're going to hear comes from your tools, from jumping, sliding, falling, creaking, or even wind and water. It makes the atmosphere especially potent. I've explained the basic plot and the main appeal, but there also lies little pockets of humanity and stories we can find as we go deeper. Bodies that just ran out of luck with their own worries, concerns, records of their final days. It's got that soulsy charm of attempting to view the world without you in it. Lorn's Lure is an exceptional and experimental indie title that I believe deserves plenty of love. I was looking forward to its release and it absolutely blew through my expectations. I highly recommend it to people who don't mind something a little more quiet, slow-paced, and a little experimental. What? Fucking scared me. If you don't want spoilers, it's your time to leave. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Alright, spoilers. So, I'm not gonna go and recap the whole story. If you want to, I'm sure it's out there. Or you can just play the damn game or watch a playthrough. So I already established how the descent of the structure could be related to the story of Adam and Eve. I have a couple of related thoughts. First is that the ending of the game could just be a metaphor to religion itself. The last lines of the games are uttered by a shepherd-looking guy. He congratulates us for making it so far, but says it's ultimately time to turn back, with nothing more that awaits us further down, only struggle. Ascending to a place where we could find comfort would be the closest option we have to a happy ending, he says, if you can call that happy. This could be a metaphor for religion itself. The way I read it has our main character continuing down a cold road that assuredly leads to struggle for truth that isn't there. The character choosing to ascend would most likely correlate to the comfort and warmth of religion. If religious people have anything in an abundance, it's a sense of purpose and importance, that they matter in the grand scheme because there is a grand scheme. The atheist instead forsakes the sense of purpose and community to live true to their beliefs. Neither is presented as a terrible option. The shepherd steers us more towards ascension. It only makes sense to reach that state of peace, just like how religion can have a very positive effect on people's lives. Although knowing our main character's original choice to abandon Eden they'll most definitely continue downward towards some struggle for truth, maybe into a sequel. All that talk just could be me looking way into it though. But there is quite a bit of self-referential religious symbolism in this game, a half eye that appears to watch us through the game appearing in more places the further we go, ever present like God. People can be seen worshipping this shape. It's drawn all over the structure and we see it on the door we use to enter the megastructure. So it's all connected to this thing, this deity, this god, this religion. Does it actually exist, or is it all a creation? Was all this man's or android's creation, or is this proof of their existence? It's very obscure, which I love. Another thing I wanted to talk about, remember when I mentioned that this work is related to Blam in more than just the premise? The author of Blam, Tsutomu Nihei, has a habit of including the name Toa Heavy Industries in some of his larger works. This is relevant, I promise. This doesn't outright connect these worlds. It's never stated in Biomega, Blame, and Knights of Sidonia that they're outright connected, and the worlds of these works are so different that you wouldn't be blamed for believing that they're all on one timeline or not. It's ambiguous. I think Rubeki mirrored this approach in world building, whether it was conscious or not, in the game Hatch. Our main character, a body of light, hatches from an egg. We end Lorn's lore by waking up from something hatching from an egg. In both games, we're talked to by a shepherd archetype. Hatch is about ascending, Lorn's lure is about descending. We can even look to the sky and see that very same symbol looking over us. It's up to us to interpret whether or not these two worlds are connected. I believe they are. Assuming that Hatch came first in the timeline, I'm not sure how, but that's just my gut feeling. Oh yeah, one more thing about the presence of God in Lorn's lore. We originally see the half circle this whole time we're playing the game, but right before we enter the final level, a giant semicircle that looks miles away changes, and it looks like an eye, like you've been watched. It's just fun to dig deep and interpret the story of Lorn's lore, and I don't think I've experienced gameplay or atmosphere exactly like this anywhere. I highly encourage you to grab it if this has been interesting, or at least watch a playthrough somewhere. It's $15 USD at full price, which I think is pretty decent, and if that's too much for you or you're not sure you'll like it, then wait for a sale. Thank you for watching, and thank you to my members, Anonymous Toast, Halliwedge, and Yurianu. I was genuinely like, maybe I shouldn't even bother making anything, because I'm kind of addicted to Horse Girl game right now.
Ah, she might be the GOAT, man. She might be insane. She might have every skill that she needs to succeed in this world. She might be fading fast, actually. She's a god!
And I spend so much time at work, but I saw that y'all joined the membership a week ago when I mentioned it, and it really made me not want to disappoint you. Okay, I'm not gonna do a super long thanks like this next time, promise. It's just this one time. All right, thank you. See you next time.